Hey everyone, and welcome back to Life Unfiltered.
It's great to be back.
You know, I think we've all been there at one point or another, right? Feeling like a complete nobody. It's like
Hmm.
starting from scratch with zero connections, maybe in a new place, a new job,
Yeah,
just facing that daunting task of building everything from the ground up.
absolutely.
But here's the thing, and this is what we're going to deep dive into today. The nobody mindset isn't about dwelling in that feeling of insignificance.
Right.
It's about recognizing the unique advantages
Yeah.
and, frankly, the freedom that come with it.
I love that freedom. It's such a key part of this whole thing.
So, like, how would you define the nobody mindset? Because it sounds kind of negative at first glance, but I'm getting the sense that there's like a hidden power in it.
Yeah, totally. It's funny because we're often told that we need to network and build connections to get ahead.
Right? It's all about who you know.
Exactly. But what if we flip that script? What if instead of focusing on who you know, you focus on what you can do?
Okay, I like where you're going with this.
Yeah. When you're a nobody, there's less pressure to conform to expectations, less scrutiny.
It's like you're off the radar a little bit.
Exactly. You have the freedom to experiment, to take risks, to maybe even fail without the fear of judgment.
That's huge because I think fear of judgment is one of the biggest things that hold people back from trying new things or putting themselves out there.
Oh, for sure, it can be paralyzing.
And when you're free from that fear, suddenly you're open to all these new possibilities.
Right, and you're more likely to embrace those opportunities for growth because you know that even if you stumble, it's not the end of the world.
And those stumbles, they're often the best learning experiences.
Yep, absolutely. They shape us, they make us stronger, they teach us resilience.
So it's like embracing the nobody mindset is actually a pathway to becoming a more resilient and adaptable person.
100%. It's about shifting your focus from external validation to internal growth.
Okay, so we're starting to see the psychological advantages of this nobody mindset. But how do we practically leverage this to actually build something from nothing?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Right, because it's easy to talk about the benefits, but what about the actual steps involved?
Well, let's dive into that. I think a really important starting point is recognizing that skills become your currency when you're starting from scratch.
Okay, so if connections are limited, your skill set becomes your calling card.
Exactly. It's what makes you stand out. It's what makes people take notice, even if they don't know your name.
So it's like investing in yourself becomes the most valuable investment you can make.
You've got it. It's about saying, hey, I may not have a fancy network or a big name behind me, but I have these skills, I have this knowledge, and I'm willing to put in the work.
And in today's world, there are so many resources available to learn and develop new skills.
That's the amazing part. You don't need a formal education or expensive courses to become skilled in something.
Right, between online platforms, YouTube tutorials, free workshops at libraries, the possibilities are endless.
And it's not just about acquiring the knowledge, it's about applying it, creating something tangible, showcasing your abilities, even if it's just for yourself initially.
It's like building your own portfolio, proving to yourself and eventually to others what you're capable of.
Precisely. This reminds me of when I first started out, I was working a full-time job that had nothing to do with my passions.
I've been there.
But I was determined to make a career shift. So I spent my evenings and weekends learning new software, building websites, writing code.
It's those late nights hunched over the computer, the hustle, the
Yeah.
grind.
Oh, yeah, I remember those days vividly.
But it's in those moments that the foundation is built.
Exactly. It's the dedication, the persistence, the willingness to put in the work even when no one is watching that ultimately sets you apart.
It's like planting seeds for a future that you can't quite see yet.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's that unwavering belief in your own potential even when the rewards aren't immediate or obvious.
So we've talked about the nobody mindset, the power of skills. But let's be real, starting from scratch can be a lonely journey. How do we combat that feeling of isolation?
Yeah, it's definitely not easy. There are times when you feel like you're on this solo mission.
Like you're shouting into the void and no one's listening.
But here's the thing, even when you're starting from scratch, you can build a support system. It just might look a little different.
Okay, give us some hope here because I
Yeah.
think a lot of people listening are probably nodding their heads feeling that isolation.
Absolutely. And I've been there myself. One of the biggest game changers for me was discovering the power of online communities.
Oh yeah, there's a community for everything these days.
Exactly. Forums, social media groups, online workshops, virtual co-working spaces. It's amazing.
It's like finding your tribe.
24/7, no matter where you are in the world, You can connect with people who understand your journey, who can offer encouragement, feedback, and even just a listening ear.
It's like having that virtual water cooler where you can bounce ideas off of people who get it.
Yeah. Precisely. And don't underestimate the power of local meetups and events, too.
I think sometimes people forget about the importance of in-person connections.
Yeah, there's something special about that face-to-face interaction, the energy you get from being around like-minded individuals.
And you never know who you might meet at those events.
Exactly. It could be your next mentor, collaborator, friend. You just never know.
Okay, so we've got online communities, local meetups. What about social media? It can be a bit of a double-edged sword.
Oh, definitely. It can be a source of comparison and distraction, but it can also be an incredible tool for building genuine connections.
So it's about using it intentionally and authentically.
Exactly. It's not about chasing followers or likes. It's about engaging in meaningful conversations, sharing your insights and experiences, connecting with people who resonate with you and your work.
It's about being a contributor, not just a consumer.
100%. And, sometimes the most unexpected connections can blossom from a simple interaction.
Oh, I love those stories. Like,
Mm.
what happened to you?
Well, early in my career, I left a comment on a blog post by someone I really admired.
Just a simple comment.
Yep. And that led to a back and forth exchange. And eventually that person became a mentor to me, offering guidance and support.
Wow, that's amazing. It's a reminder that you never know where you'll find your next mentor or collaborator.
Right. Sometimes it's in the most unexpected places.
This has been such an inspiring conversation already, and we've only just scratched the surface.
There's so much more to explore.
But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I think the most important message is this. You don't need a pre-existing network or a big name to succeed.
So it's not about who you know, it's about what you do and who you become.
Exactly. It's about resilience, patience, and a willingness to put in the work even when the rewards aren't immediate.
It's about embracing the journey with all its ups and downs and trusting that you have the power to create something meaningful, even when the world doesn't know your name yet.
Beautifully said. I think that sums it up perfectly.
So join us next time as we continue this conversation and delve deeper into the strategies for thriving as a nobody. Welcome back to Life Unfiltered. So last time we were talking about, skills being like currency when you're starting from scratch.
Yeah, it's like you're building your own network, but instead of people, it's what you can do.
Exactly. And it made me think about something we haven't touched on yet, which is persistence.
Ooh, persistence. That's a big one.
Because it's easy to say, oh yeah, just don't give up, keep trying. But what does that actually look like when you're, facing rejection after rejection?
Right. It's more than just trying again. It's about that deep down belief in yourself and your vision.
Even when the world seems to be telling you to quit.
Yeah, exactly. It's easy to get discouraged when you pour your heart into something and you hear crickets.
Those crickets are the worst.
Oh, I know the feeling. I remember when I was first starting out pitching my ideas, my services myself to anyone who would listen. And most of the time,
No response.
nothing, not even no, just silence.
Like sending a message in a bottle and hoping it reaches someone someday.
It really is like that. But here's the thing. That's when persistence becomes your superpower.
So how do you not let those rejections or the lack of response define you or your work?
It's about shifting your perspective. Instead of seeing it as a personal failure, I started asking myself, okay, what can I learn from this?
So it's like turning those no's or those silent moments into information.
Exactly. It's about becoming a student of the process, even when it's tough. And believe me, it can be tough.
But we're human rights. We have doubts, we get discouraged. So how do we stay motivated when it feels like we're making zero progress?
That's where having a support system comes in. Remember, we talked about building that community even when you're starting from scratch.
Yeah, those virtual tribes, those in-person connections.
They're not just for feel-good vibes. They're also fuel for your persistence.
It's like having a cheering squad, even if it's just online, to remind you why you started in the first place.
Right, and to help you get back on track when you stumble, which you will, everyone stumbles.
It's inevitable.
Yeah, and sometimes just knowing that you're not alone in those moments can make all the difference.
So persistence isn't just about gritting your teeth and pushing through.
It's about mindset. It's about having that inner drive, that belief in yourself, but also surrounding yourself with people who believe in you too.
It's like a combination of inner strength and outer support.
Exactly. And a lot of it comes down to that internal dialogue we have with ourselves.
Oh, that inner critic can be so loud sometimes.
It can be deafening, especially when you're starting from scratch. It's easy to get caught in the comparison trap.
Comparing yourself to others who seem to be further along or have it all figured out.
Right, but comparison is a losing game. There will always be someone who seems to be ahead of you, but their journey is not your journey.
So how do we break free from that comparison trap and cultivate a more positive mindset?
One thing that has helped me tremendously is practicing gratitude.
Gratitude. Okay. I've heard a lot about that, but
hmm
how does that actually help when you're feeling like a nobody?
When you focus on the good things in your life, even the small things, it shifts your perspective from scarcity to abundance.
So instead of focusing on what you lack
You start to appreciate what you have.
and what you've already achieved,
Exactly. And as you practice gratitude more consistently, you'll find that it becomes easier to silence that inner critic.
and to approach your journey with more hope and optimism,
Right. You start to see the possibilities instead of getting bogged down by the limitations.
it's like creating a more supportive internal environment for yourself.
I love that. And when you have that inner support system, that unwavering belief in yourself, it makes it so much easier to keep going even when things get tough.
This is so powerful.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people struggle with this idea of persistence and gratitude, especially when they're starting from scratch.
It's not always easy, but it's so worth it.
So to recap, persistence is more than just pushing through. It's about having that inner belief, building a supportive community, and cultivating a grateful mindset.
And remembering that you're not alone in this journey.
That's so important. We all need that reminder sometimes.
We do. And on that note, we'll wrap up this part of our deep dive into thriving as a nobody. But join us next time
Yeah.
as we explore how to take all of this and actually start building momentum.
Can't wait to dive into that next time on Life Unfiltered. Welcome back to Life Unfiltered. So we've talked about the nobody mindset, the importance of skills persistence, building a support system.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
But there's one more crucial piece of the puzzle that I think we need to discuss, and that's momentum.
Momentum. Yeah, that's the magic ingredient, right?
It's that feeling of things starting to click, like you're finally gaining traction.
Like that boulder you've been pushing uphill is finally starting to roll a little easier.
Exactly. But how do we actually create that momentum, especially when we're starting from scratch?
hmm
Because it can feel like you're pushing that boulder with everything you've got, and it's barely budging.
Oh, I know that feeling all too well, and it can be so frustrating. But here's the thing, even the smallest actions done consistently can start to create a ripple effect.
Okay, so it's about those baby steps, those tiny wins that add up over time.
Exactly. It's about breaking down those big, overwhelming goals into smaller, more manageable milestones.
So it's like instead of trying to climb Mount Everest all at once,
Yeah,
you focus on reaching base camp first.
exactly. You shift your focus from the overwhelming big picture to the immediate next step.
And each step you take, each milestone you reach, builds your confidence and fuels your motivation.
It's like creating a series of stepping stones that lead you towards your ultimate destination.
I love that. And it's not just about achieving those milestones, it's about acknowledging and celebrating them along the way.
Oh, absolutely. Celebrating those small wins is crucial for reinforcing that sense of progress and keeping your motivation high.
It's like giving yourself permission to pause and say, hey, I did that. I'm moving forward, even if it's just one tiny step at a time.
It's like giving yourself a pat on the back and saying, keep going, you're on the right track.
Okay, so we're breaking down goals, we're celebrating wins. What else can we do to keep that momentum train chugging along?
This one might sound a little less exciting, but trust me, it's just as important. Create a consistent routine.
Routine, okay. I'll admit it doesn't sound as glamorous, but I can see how structure can be helpful, especially when you're feeling lost or overwhelmed.
You're so right. When you're starting from scratch, it's easy to feel directionless. You might have bursts of energy and motivation, followed by periods of procrastination and self-doubt.
It's like the feast or famine cycle of creativity.
Exactly. But when you establish a consistent routine, you create a structure that supports your efforts.
So it's about showing up consistently, even on the days when you don't feel like it.
You got it. It's about treating your work like a priority, not just something you squeeze in when you have a spare moment.
And the more you show up, the more you build that momentum.
Exactly. It becomes a habit, a natural part of your day.
Like carving a path through the wilderness. At first, it's rough and overgrown, but the more you walk that path, the smoother and clearer it becomes.
I love that analogy, and as you stick to your routine, you'll find that the resistance you initially felt starts to diminish.
So consistency is key. But let's be real, even with the best intentions and a solid routine, we're going to hit roadblocks. We're going to feel stuck, discouraged, maybe even want to throw in the towel altogether.
Of course, those moments are inevitable. Every journey has its bumps in the road. But it's how we respond to those challenges that determines whether we maintain our momentum or lose steam.
So how do we navigate those roadblocks without letting them completely derail our progress?
Here's a powerful reframing. Try to view those challenges as opportunities for learning and growth.
It's that growth mindset again, right?
Exactly. Instead of getting frustrated or giving up when you hit a roadblock, try asking yourself, what can I learn from this obstacle? How can I use this experience to refine my approach or develop new skills?
So it's about turning their setbacks into stepping stones.
Right, just like those smaller milestones we talked about earlier.
It's amazing how a simple shift in perspective can transform a roadblock into a valuable learning experience.
It really is. And remember, you're not alone in this journey when you hit those bumps in the road. Don't be afraid to reach out to your support system. Seek advice from mentors. Learn from the experiences of others.
It's a reminder that even though we're starting from scratch, we don't have to figure everything out on our own.
Absolutely. There's so much wisdom and support available to us if we're just willing to ask for it.
This has been such an incredible conversation. I feel like we've covered so much ground from embracing the nobody mindset to building momentum and everything in between.
And I hope our listeners are feeling inspired and empowered to keep moving forward on their own unique journeys.
Absolutely. Whether you're starting a new business, pursuing a creative passion, or simply trying to make a change in your life, these principles can help you navigate the challenges and opportunities that come with starting from scratch.
It's a marathon, not a sprint focused on making consistent progress. Celebrate your wins and never underestimate the power of believing in yourself and your vision.
Beautifully said so. To wrap up our deep dive into thriving as a nobody, remember to break down those big goals, celebrate every win, create a consistent routine, and reframe challenges as opportunities for growth.
And surround yourself with a supportive community because you don't have to do this alone.
Thank you so much for joining us on Life Unfiltered. We'll see you next time.